wanted to show you those photos from the crime scene that happened from the first confirmed Zodiac case. The murders of Betty Lou Jensen, who was 16, and David Faraday, who was 17, both from Vallejo, both only teenagers with a lot of life to go. If you watched my earlier video, I traveled this same road. I'm on Lake Herman Road now, heading out to where that crime scene took place, where both of those teenagers were needlessly killed by a stalker, a killer, that terrorized this area of the East Bay in San Francisco in the 1960s and 70s. I was young at that time, still in elementary school, but I remember the case well. The Zodiac became the proverbial boogeyman to my generation. Later, it would be my generation that would be in charge of investigating this case. I myself working 30 years of law enforcement experience. A lot of the original law enforcement officials that worked on this case were tormented for years. Some of them are dead, some of them are alive, some of them don't want to talk about it. And the same thing with some of the survivors. Some of them went into hiding for years. And a lot of people just want to make a fast buck off of the murders of people like these two young kids that were killed out here on Lake Herman Road, the road I'm traveling now, and the road I traveled a couple days ago with my son. Some of them claim their relatives did it. Some of them have theories, but they're writing books to make a buck, which I think is pitiful to do that at the expense of people that died at the hands of this crazed killer. Shame on you for those of you that did this, and some of you are law enforcement officials that did this. If you had these theories back in the days when you were actively working the cases, why didn't you come forward and discuss? Why did you wait so long and write a book when you could have done due diligence on the case and closed it at the time when it happened, bringing closure to those families? I'll tell you why. Because your books that you wrote are just fantasy, make-believe, made-up stories that bear no credence and no solid evidence that leads to a prosecution for the subjects that you mention in your books. Of course, this doesn't apply to the majority of great law enforcement officials that work this case, a few of which I have had the honor of meeting and talking to. Unfortunately, most of them are deceased, but some are still alive, and some of them know who the Zodiac killer was and pass that information along to me. It's too bad the suspect in this case, the one that probably would have been convicted of this case had he lived much longer, has been dead for quite some time. And now on to the armchair sleuths out there, particularly the ones that make money off their websites and their publications and their books, that think they know who the suspects are when they have absolutely no clue. Or they've befriended writers of books, one of which was pretty factual. At least his book had the right suspect, according to my source in the Department of Justice, who's one of the last agents to work the case against the Zodiac. You armchair sleuths, you Monday morning quarterbacks, all you've done is guesswork. Some of you have paid law enforcement officials to access critical evidence in the case that has now been tampered with and destroyed. Thank you for that. I've seen a lot of your theories. I've seen a lot of your evidence, so-called evidence, that you have against your suspects in the case, and it's laughable. I've even written to one of you that started this stuff a long time ago, and you never got back to me. You never even responded. And you know why? Because again, all you wanted to do was make a buck. I want you all to ponder this. This is the site where the first murders happened. And at this site, on a guardrail, is written one of the Zodiac symbols. Think about this. Think about the fact that what you're doing is perpetuating some other sick individual with a twisted mind into possibly doing a copycat version of what the original Zodiac did. For the police department that holds the information, and I know you have it, I think it's time that you divulge that information to the public. And you tell them what you have. And you give closure to the family. As I drive away from this site, and I drove down a little bit further, I noticed a lady in a car by herself. I don't know what she was doing there. A very attractive blonde lady. And I thought to myself, what if a copycat, just like the copycats that are putting these symbols all over the original crime areas that these murders happen, what if one of these sick bastards got out there and did this again? Maybe to this poor lady that I seen in her car by herself. I don't know what she was doing there. She looked completely normal to me. But what if a twisted mind who thought that he or she could get away with these murders, which would never happen in today's day and age, but you just never know what goes through people's minds. In closing, I'd like to see the right thing done here, and I know that it can be done without the excuses. And I'd like to tell all you armchair sleuths out there that think you know who did it and have all these theories and versions and all that, just stop. All you're doing is torturing the families on this. Leave it alone. They've been through enough. Thank you, and take care.